This is We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard, and this is an episode with Peter Willington, who works for Auroch Digital, as well as being on the fantastic Staying In podcast. We just jumped directly into the conversation because I've known Peter for a little while now, so there isn't the normal intro that you would expect, but it's a good, fun conversation as always, so please, thank you for listening, thank you for subscribing and supporting us in general, and on with the show. I got a Blue Yeti for Christmas, so...
Oh,
yeah, and it's really nice. It kind of like is chalk and cheese between the snowball I was using, because you can actually get some feedback as to what you were kind of saying, so... yeah. It's an incredibly nice piece of kit to be using, but... let's...
It's funny, isn't it? Like that's one of the things I've noticed as my podcast has been going on. It's like the more you invest in your hardware, the more like you notice it. Like I never thought I would notice a big difference between microphones, but then like I'd splurge some money on like a decent microphone and like I think it's a 4-track. Sam would kill me. I don't know what it is, but basically there's like a thing with a load of like buttons and knobs on my desk, and they're set just right. And
did you get like a picture sent over from Sam to say, "Now this is how you set it up"?
I mean, you're joking, but yes, that is basically what he said. He was like, "Just turn it to these and don't ever change anything."
Here's the
but the difference is unbelievable. You know, it's actually sounds like you're there rather than in a big echoey chamber.
Yeah, well, as I say, the good thing is it's got these 4 settings on it, and it's kind of one of these. It's just really, really nice. It's nice when you listen back to it because, as you say, there's a clarity, and if you get really close to the mic, you can do this kind of ASMR thing? You can go
ASMR, yeah.
Hi, I'm eating some crisps, kind of thing, and it's just a bit. Stop it.
It's beautiful. We should just do can we just do the whole show?
We could just take my look, I'm clicking my mouse.
Listen to me as I stroke my microphone. It's like fair play to them. I've watched a couple of those videos, and because you fall down an internet rabbit hole every once in a while, and there is something very relaxing about them. I can totally see why people are into them. Like, I can totally see why people sit down and go, do you know what, I'm going to watch 25 minutes of somebody squidging Orbeez around in a little glass bowl.
Ripping
totally
paper. It's like I've got 15 sheets of A4 and I'm just going to rip them all, and you're just like, what?
It feels like a halfway house between. It's clearly done as a relaxation thing. Like that is clearly the intention of like 90% of the content. But like even in that 90% of the content, it does still feel a little bit. There's something, because I guess it's because it's such personal attention. There is something a little bit like, not seedy, because it's clearly not that, but it's like okay, my audience has asked me to rip a bunch of paper, and you're like, this feels a little bit like a phone up.
It's white noise, isn't it? There's something something kind of, it's almost bordering on white noise, because if you and Mr. Frost will be all aware about this with him having the young'un, is that babies like white noise. They say that the best thing to do is if you have a young child and they're not settling, it's not to tell everybody to be quiet, but it's like put the Hoover on, or you put the Hoover on, or detune it. In the old days, you used to detune a radio or have some white noise on the telly, and there's actual tapes that you can buy, which is white noise. And they say when a baby's in the womb for the first 9 months of its life, it doesn't hear silence. It's a cacophony, and it hears its mother coughing, breathing. There's gurgling going on in the stomach above. It hears a constant pound of a heartbeat. So if you think about the inside of a human body, it's a very noisy place. So you get a child going from a place where it's warm, it's wet, and they've got constant noise, to people going around going, shh, shh, be quiet, quiet, the baby's trying to sleep.
That's true.
So that's what they say. You get actual tapes. You get YouTube channels, which are just white noise, which is like a detuned radio, or the kind of the noise you used to hear when you used to get like an untuned TV kind of thing.
I suppose also if you've not been born yet, you don't know how to tune your radio.
Especially, can you get an untunable radio? I bet you, because it's kind of like this a retro thing now. It's like the old record players you get where they go, and you can get this with triple speed, and if you want to, you can play it through your speakers, and then they'll be saying, and this is a traditional radio. Yes, it is. It works like a DAB radio, so you've got the buttons if you want. But you can also tune it as well, so you can get the...
Tune it manually.
And now he's going to be talking about chocolate. I don't know, Gary. And here's a hit for number 4. That kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But how are you though? I mean, we're not doing an intro because this is I'll do an intro. What I'll do is I'll record an intro for the beginning so people are aware. But you are. Well, I suppose you're Peter Willington, and Peter Willington he's a couple of things in my life.
Yeah,
he is one of the hosts, one of the main hosts. I was going to say, one of the main hosts of this.
The main hosts being Chris, myself, and Sam.
of the Staying In podcast, which is a fabulous podcast, which is all about it's all about mainstream entertainment, basically. Because we'll touch on this in a second, okay? But you're a talker and you're a conversationalist around different kind of mainstream entertainment that millions of people enjoy and generates billions of pounds, dollars worth of income. And you also you work you're part of a company called Auroch Digital, which we're going to touch on today as well, because there has been a game that has come out which has a very board game related kind of flavour to it as well. So we're gonna kind of touch on that. So there are segues abound. But are you well though? Are you good?
I'm unbelievably fit and like a buff right now. Basically, what I've been doing since I last chatted with you, hence a couple of in jokes. Basically, I think last time I think we were talking about like me maybe getting down the gym and doing all that sort of stuff. Well, I've continued to go down the gym. I've now got it to a minimum of once a week.
Wow.
And I do that, but also I've been doing sports. Okay.
No.
Now, I'm not a sports person. Like, but I mean, clearly I am because I'm doing sports. But I'm not. I've never seen myself as a sports person. I don't really like team sports because I don't deal with testosterone very well. So, for example, when I play video games that I have like a very deep-seated like investment into, I get quite some would say passionate, some would say aggressive. So, for example, like when Street Fighter 4 came out, I was just like the worst. It turned me into a terrible person, basically, and it just put me off, sports and esports and all that sort of stuff. But recently, I've been doing solo sports. So I've tried scuba diving, I've tried golfing.
Oh, yeah.
More recently, I've been going fencing.
Did you continue with fencing? Let's put a bit of let's put a little bit of background on this for people who aren't aware. You decided on, I think it was for an upcoming birthday, instead of doing the usual, maybe having a mini holiday, a mini break, spend a couple £100 getting the latest bit of kit or tech for yourself, you decided to go through a series of what can only be described as in kind of once in a lifetime kind of experiences that people should all kind of try. So you went on a baking course, and you learned learned to kind of make cakes and stuff. You went
because I've never done that before.
And you went on a golfing lesson with a PGA professional, and you went fencing. And I'm interested to find out. So have you continued with any of those since?
Yeah. So I, much to my partner's sort of chagrin, I have not continued with the baking,
okay.
which is a bit of a shame because I did really enjoy it, but I just haven't been bothered. The golf, I've been going down the driving range,
wow.
And I've been swinging a club at some balls, and I've been very much showing myself up on the driving range. And I tried fencing. I actually started fencing last week. Because it was basically I had to book it for January. My birthday was actually in October, but I booked it for January. And I started last week. I tried it yesterday as well. I did it again yesterday, and I've got basically I think it's 8 or 10 weeks paid up, and then I'm a fully fledged British Fencing Association member for some reason.
Gone the full
They just didn't. They just said basically, "Oh, you got to sign up for this." So like you just have to go for it. I was like, "All right, I'll do it." And do you know what? It's a lot of fun. I've been really enjoying it, and I've been trying to keep fit with it. And I found that solo sports are really kind of where it's at for me. Things where it's all about me getting better rather than me fitting into a team. Because
that's that locked off the CV. Then I work well on my own. You've missed the second part about working well with others. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. I tell you what, it's a good thing I'm already employed, isn't it? But I find when I work in a team in the studio, because we're all quite chilled out and relaxed, and it's all very nice. It's not really a competitive atmosphere. It's really good. Like I really enjoy being a part of a team there. But when I'm a part of in a sports team and stuff like that, if somebody fluffs something up and it's not me, fury.
I can't imagine you doing
wrath. No, it's
you don't
bad.
come across like that.
You see, what I've done is I've cultivated a personality of being quite nice, but I'm actually terrible underneath. I have this streak. I have this very genuine streak of. I get angry at things sometimes, but it's tiny things. It'll be things where I'm like competing, so team sports and stuff like that, and also just stubbing my toe, like that kind of level of I dropped a spoon. And then, like most things I'd be like, oh, that's absolutely fine. There's a train coming down the tracks and it's about to hit us. It's fine. Well, whatever. We'll just chill out and do whatever we want. But like, if I'm like, oh, I've burnt these eggs, just livid, absolutely livid. And it comes out every once in a while when I'm sleepy. Usually, that's the other thing. It's either heightened testosterone or a bit sleepy. Those are the two things.
It's like, beware, here comes Sleepy Willington. Make sure you don't get anything wrong.
Exactly. When I go out on a football pitch and I've had a late night, you just do not want to be around.
Yeah,
me.
but you don't come across seeing things like the tweeterers. You don't come across as you don't come across as the type of person that goes in at what the trending topics is, and then starts shouting at people. Man shouts at cloud.
Internet rage.
Another one of I'm pretty sure that Trump doesn't bother reading anything that gets added at him. Why are you shouting at him at all? You don't come across that. It's not like it's Willington, quick, Willington's off on one again.
Yeah, exactly. No, but that's it. I kind of that's the silly thing about it. And I've tried to not, because that's the thing. I try not to be angry. So when I go and do, I steer away from team sports. I steer away from being sleepy. Like I don't want to be this person who's like a big ragey monster, because like why would I? And like you're right, on Twitter, like you see a bunch of people and they're just like 20 tweet long rants at the current administration, and obviously like absolutely like people should be angry.
I'm not saying I am not, in no ways am I saying that people it's a platform that allows you to express yourself, but but
at the same time it's like direct your like. What I like to do is direct my anger into like when I go around Sainsbury's, yes. I don't know if people could tell, but with golf, fencing, and Sainsbury's, yes, I am very middle class. Basically, like I like to channel my aggression into picking up a soup can and dropping it into the food bucket. Do you know what I mean? Like I'd rather do that than sort of go, everything's awful, and then just kind of not do anything about it. There we are. Yeah, good.
Oh dear. I think this is just completely new to me, because I always had you as a kind of a chilled, a chilled kind of relatively quiet kind of individual, and you've never been one that's come across as a big guy who really. There's certain sections of popular culture which you're blissfully unaware of, which I've always had the greatest, utmost respect for somebody who has an ability just to go, I don't know what the Bake Off is, I don't care, kind of thing. It's like, it's not that you don't care, it's just a case of, I've not got enough interest in it for it to interest me, and I don't need to be jumping on this particular zeitgeist kind of thank you very much kind of thing, which has always been... It's always been... I guess it allows you to focus on other things instead.
Absolutely. One of my recent things that I've been... now I'm saying this out loud.
Just go for it. It's just me and you. It's just you and me. One of my most recent things... That's all.
All right, yeah. All right. Just because it's just you and I then. Basically, I've been sort of... I've been listening to a 36-hour-long lecture on concert music. I've been getting into trying to figure out what concert music is and whether or not I like ancient music and Baroque and classical and all that sort of stuff. Because that's what I do. And I've never had any interest in it before, but I just saw this lecture series and I was like, I'm going to listen to that. Okay, 36 hours, let's do it. So started listening to it, and I was having a conversation with my partner about focus and about the sort of one of the great things about mass media is that you can get access to absolutely anything that you want, and it's really wonderful. Yeah. But the double-edged sword of that is that there isn't a Baroque period. There isn't a Renaissance period. It's now a postmodern period in which everything is valid, and there is no real curation of what society is deeming good art, right? So what we've done is we've got into this period of time in which things like YouTube are incredibly popular because YouTube is this really low barrier to entry and for creators, but also for people who are viewing it, and it's very easily digestible content that can just keep you very entertained very quickly. Like you see, like trash TV in the 90s and noughties was kind of the progenitor to all of this, and it means that you don't have to really get into anything. It means that with concert music, for example, you can listen to it. It's a zero barrier to entry, really, because you can listen to it and go, oh, that sounds quite nice, and that's what I always did beforehand. But now that I'm halfway through this lecture series, I'm starting to appreciate why concert music, is particularly exciting. And why it's fascinating, and you can only enjoy that stuff if you get through that barrier to entry of you actually have to put a little bit of time and effort into it, and that's kind of why podcasts like yourself, your podcast, you're not a podcast, why your podcast exists. It's like the barrier to entry is, do you like board games? Yes, okay, brilliant. Here's this really cool, easy way to find out and hear about board games and talk to you talk to cool people. And then people who are listening to it are getting deeper and deeper and deeper into this thing, and that's that time and investment that means that you deeply appreciate something. And I was talking to Alex about this, and I said, it's kind of like the reason that pop music is so popular is because the barrier to entry is so low. It's melody. It's not really. There's not really any. There isn't a degree of intelligence that you necessarily need, or maybe intelligence is the wrong word, but like experience and knowledge of why a rondo movement is different to, I don't know, some other form, to appreciate it. And she was like, but that's really good. And I was like, no, that is really good. But when people are listening to pop artists like ... and I literally, the first one that came to my mind, right, here we go, Britney Spears.
Oh my goodness.
Now, I still consider her, I'm assuming that she is still doing pop records.
She's kind of, do you know what? I think the audience, it's kind of interesting to see, like with all of these things, that the audience for Britney Spears is now kind of mid-30s. Kind of the type of people that you would see going to a Britney Spears concert are likely to be kind of... I guess still young enough to be considered that they're going to go to a pop concert and have an awful lot of fun. I think she kind of, I think she's still very, very, very much working, and she's still
she's still doing.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. Okay,
she's still doing stuff.
Good. Okay.
But then the thing is,
then it
doesn't matter if you're relevant or not, because the likes of your streaming services, like your Spotify and things like that, can push you back into some kind of relevancy. I mean, there's a lot of things that will say you just need to click on, like, an early 2000s playlist, and then you'll get all of those people, and then it'll take you down the rabbit hole, and you're right, the kind of the accessibility for you getting access to it. But then there's a difference between you saying, okay, if you decided... There's the difference between you listening to Britney Spears and then you going ahead and saying, well, let's look at the genre at that time and let's actually further discuss the composing techniques. Let's further discuss the kind of the general sound bites, the technology that was used. Let's look at the size of the, you know, the considerable size of the writing team. How much of it was herself? How much of it was down to the kind of the record company? And I think getting into that's different. That's exactly a different ball game altogether. I mean, it's a difference. Yeah,
absolutely. You know. I mean, I definitely don't. I don't want things to be elite. I want things to be accessible. Like, it is amazing that board games have come on and video games and you know, Netflix has anime like front and center of its service now. Like, I love the fact that the barrier to entry is low. I would never want that any other way. I suppose what I'm most interested in is like focusing on a particular thing and then just consuming as much of it as I possibly can so that I can understand it and have an appreciation of it. And I guess that means that things like, is Big Brother still a thing?
It's interesting that it is still a thing, and this year, I mean, it's still there. I think it's struggling to find an identity in itself. Look, I guess when Big Brother was starting out, there were very few reality TV shows, and nowadays every single TV show appears to have some kind of reality element. And I think in cases where you've got reality shows where, you know, let's show you how to make a cake kind of thing, and then we get contestants, and the next week it's like, well, let's show you how to make the table that the cake was made on, and then let's show you, you know, let's go back and see these 6 people are going to be going through a kind of a competition to see who's going to be the best cake reality show presenter. I mean that's where we are. I mean that's where we are. I mean, you're talking reality shows quickly. Quick aside one was like a Dancing on Ice, which Dancing on Ice has currently featured several reality stars, including the last winner of the Great British Bake Off when it was still in the BBC, which is kind of a strange situation to be in. It's kind of like, and then they're saying it's Dancing on Ice. Yeah, it's like Dancing on Ice with celebrities, and then you're turning out that the celebrities are, you know, they've got a couple of people from Coronation Street, but they seem to be a plethora of people who have become famous through reality TV shows.
I always find that when you add on ice to anything, it instantly makes the thing even better. It's like Lion King, this absolutely beautiful story about the African Sahara on ice. It's just like, oh, brilliant. Well,
Frozen on Ice. Frozen on Ice. Yeah. I mean,
Frozen on Ice. That's maybe
probably that was a rubbish imagination thing, wasn't it? Because my brain's going quick. Find a Disney thing that could potentially be on ice, and they say, well, Frozen could be, Frozen.
Frozen could be, but I'm just looking forward to, you know, I just wish that they would do it with slightly more things that I'd be interested in. So, for example, you know, I don't know, like War and Peace on ice. That'd be fun. Or The Caretaker, you know, The Caretaker, or something like that. Like some really deep play.
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy on ice. What's your name? Yeah. George Smiley. Hey! As he goes flying off the side. Oh, it's not going to be good. It'd be brilliant. What if they had what's his name? Gary Oldman on it. If he was actually putting him on ice, because that would be hilarious. Because he played George Smiley in the film. That would be worthwhile. Kind of watching. I think no. I mean, I guess. You know, one of the good things, I guess, about the whole board game space is that kind of ability for people to deep dive into stuff seems to be going hand in hand, because you get people that are saying, well, here's games to play, here's how to play them, but then you're starting to get the content out there. It's like, well, here's why you should be playing them, and here's an interview with the designer on what their thoughts behind they were kind of playing them. So I think thankfully, because you're not having to do it retrospectively, like say Baroque music, where you're getting people kind of going back and saying, well, let's put everything that everybody has knowledge on an online, easily accessible basis. It appears like the board game hobby has already done that. I mean, I was reading. There's a fantastic. There's a fantastic kind of series on accessibility for board games, where you get different people talking about different levels of kind of accessibility, and that could be from everything from colour blindness to actually physical accessibility as well, in relation to I think, what was I reading? I was reading an article today about Charterstone, which is obviously the Jamie Stegmaier kind of latest kind of board game, and it was somebody had done an article based on, I'm playing Charterstone, and yet I've actually got I think they've got a physical impairment. They can't basically they can't stretch over a table to have a look at what the board's like. I'm just trying to. It's like, I'm going to find it just now because it's going to bug me otherwise, and I don't want to look ignorant. But Jamie Stegmaier on Facebook, he was talking about Charterstone, and it was an article by Geeky Gimp, who were talking about the accessibility, and they were talking about it in relation to not only the normal stuff, which is colour blindness, but also the ability for the difference between kind of hidden resources and open resources. So a hidden resource is where you've got like a hand of cards where you're keeping your resources hidden away from the other players, and then open resources where you've got all your resources on the table and everybody can see them. And the accessibility difficulties between somebody who maybe finds it difficult and tiring to hold a hand of cards for a length of time, based on where they've just got the access. So that was kind of, and I was just thinking, well, that's kind of good, because board gaming is in that situation where you're kind of getting all these takedowns and breakdowns, because people are looking for media and content, that there is people that are actively saying, let's not just look at whether this game is good and deserveth 7 out of 10, to people actually saying, well, I'm looking at this game from a colourblind accessibility point of view, are the rules easy to kind of pick up? Do I need to watch a video, kind of thing, which is kind of very interesting, kind of indeed.
And again, it's about bringing that level of that barrier to entry down, right? Like, so in the video games realm, this has been a thing for years and years and years and years and years, because video games have kind of already gone through what board games are currently going through at the moment.
Yeah.
We've had our mainstream. We're in the mainstream now, video games. So we have this huge amount of criticism from different areas of things like accessibility and representation and those kinds of things. And if you actually go and look at the statistics, if you don't design a video game to be accessible to, let's say, for example, people who are colorblind, just as an absolute minimum, you are basically cutting out a very large potential chunk of your audience. And whether or not you want to do it from we can talk about it from a moral perspective of let's try and include as many people as we can, because aren't games great, and blah blah blah, all this sort of stuff. But the very bottom line is, if you are a business and you are cutting out potential customers, like, that is bad business.
Yeah, it is.
Like, if so I think board games, they will need to go through this period of time, and it's going to be really difficult, because board games are by their nature very physical, and so physical impairments are going to be really difficult to get around. But at the same time, just because it's difficult, I guess it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a problem. And in fact, I would say that board games, more than video games, will be able to take advantage of like a grey market, like a third party suppliers. Yeah. So like, things that, let's say, for example, you're unable to move and you're in a wheelchair. Like, there will be bits of tech, there will be holders or something like that will be able to like shield your cards and stuff like that, and that will work across all games. Whereas with video games, it's on a per game basis, which is why a lot of video game studios find it really difficult to implement accessibility options and that kind of thing. And again, I would say, to put the other flip side of this, is accounting for accessibility is absolutely something you should do as a business. It is also something that totally costs money, and there is sometimes a business reason as to why certain accessibility options get included and why they don't.
But AAA games, I mean, I looked at, say, I have a loan of Destiny 2, and I was flicking through the menu to obviously change the Y-axis so it was automatically inverted, because why are you doing that? First player games, I like
of course.
But then I noticed they've got an entire section which is to do with colour blindness. And they've done the research enough to go through, and they're not just saying, "Oh, it's colour blindness, therefore you're confusing green and red." And it's like, no, but they've done.
People are different.
They've got like 4 or 5 different settings that you can put in, and I thought that was, that's exception. That's it's exceptional. It's like it's good enough to be kind of. That's it's good enough to be kind of. Noted that they've taken the time, but it should maybe be a potential standard. Is it? I mean, I don't know. Should it be a console standard?
I mean, I think the more that the consoles allow you to do these kinds of things on a console basis, so the expense comes because you're doing it per game. I think with AAA, there's basically zero excuse. Like with that kind of budget, versus the amount of sales you'll potentially get, it's like, well, it's absolutely a no-brainer. You should just do accessibility, and as much of it as you can. One of the things that is really good for indie games in general is that the consoles allow you to remap buttons on a system basis, so the game doesn't have to take it into account. The console is taking it into account. So, for example, some people find R2 on a PlayStation controller, because it's quite a lot of degrees of accuracy to R2 to that, because it's essentially like a lever. You can change those settings on a console level, so the game doesn't have to worry about it. And I think I think you'll start to see more of that stuff. I think actually you'll probably see, when we go onto the PS5 and the Xbox. I have no idea what they're going to do. But whatever the next Xbox
they'll call it the Y box. They'll change it completely. They'll call it...
Sure.
They'll call it the change. And it's like, what are you calling it the change? Is that so it's like close to the Switch? No, it's nothing to do with that at all. It's the Change X.
The Change X. But, I think you'll see more more system level accessibility options come through, because, again, they've done really well. For the platform holders, I would say. But yeah, so I think it's one of those things that we'll see more and more and more of that in all of our media as we become a society that is more tolerant and open and welcoming, to people, to a wide variety of things. Because, again, to come back to this earlier point, because we have mass media, because there is so much to choose. It's now not a case of, whether or not we can convince people to play board games or video games or films or whatever. It's now a case of, well, it's so easily accessible. It's now a case of keeping our audience's attention and making them not churn off of board games. So there was a really interesting article by, I think it's somebody over at Asmodee, and they were talking about basically how piracy of their product, people making knockoffs, was potentially damaging board games as a medium, because basically people get cheap parts. They get a knockoff version of Netrunner, and it's really naff playing cards and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And it might potentially put somebody off Netrunner, but it might also put people off board games. Yeah. And I think the same is true of accessibility. It's like when I see somebody on, when I've seen on forums before where people are like, a friend of mine really wants to get into video games. What are your top 5 games that people should be introduced to? And they're like, you should totally show them Mega Man.
Yeah.
And you're like,
why?
Do not show them Mega Man. Just chuck him in the middle of a Crusader Kings 2 campaign at the same time. Why not? What we want is people
Peter.
to...
No.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, this is my anger coming up, isn't it?
You're turning into some kind of nasty ogre there.
Do you know, you are the king of the segue. Did you know that? The absolute king of the segue.
Because do you like cutting across the bow? What do? We say, our captain, what should we do? We cut across our bow and send in the lower segue. But anyway, no. Ogre. Do you like that? I kind of think I saved you from going into full rant mode.
I did, yeah. You see, this is it. I need people to bring me back down.
It's like Steve.
Yes.
It's like Dr. Banner in the Avengers. It's like, you asked me what my secret was. It's not controlling my angry. It's that I'm always angry. Roar!
Line for line, perfect reading.
Almost.
Almost there.
Let's touch on Ogre, because everybody's probably been spending it. These are just two guys having a chat, and where's the board games? Well, we've touched on board games, but listen, sometimes, on occasion, on We're Not Wizards, we just like to get somebody on and have a chat, and this is what's happening this morning.
Right.
Basically, we could do the intro. For those who are missing the intro, the reason that we do this is there's quite simply not enough podcasts about board games, and the second reason that we do this is because I like Peter an awful lot and I wanted to have a chat with him. So we've been organising this for ages, which has started last year, and it was all to talk about the old Games Workshop game Ogre that has been brought to your lovely PC by the company called Auroch Digital, which Peter works for, which is why he's come on to talk about it. There's going to be other episodes. I've got another 3 episodes or something to release in the next couple of days, which are all going to be board game related. But this is me having a chat with Peter. You can skip it if you want to, it's fine, but it's a very good chat so far. Just in case. Ogre.
Yeah, absolutely. Ogre. So, yes, so we did. So I'm a producer over at Auroch Digital. We're in Bristol. We're like a video game studio. We make other games as well, and we often work with IPs. So we work with Games Workshop. We've worked with them on Chainsaw Warrior, and we work with them on Dark Future. We've worked with, and for Ogre, we work with Steve Jackson Games, and they are the people what made. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called a game called Munchkin.
I've heard. I think it's a game. It kind of comes. It's like the spice rack of card games. Is that you can go to a spice rack and there's multiple different variations of Munchkin.
Yeah.
To the point that I'll have. I think I'll have the smoked paprika Munchkin today, or I'm gonna have the rosemary with a hint of Bailey in it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Kick down doors, steal the loot, season your vegetables.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I think so they did Munchkin, they did Car Wars GURPS, and a bunch of other very good games. And Ogre was made in 1977, and it's a progenitor to a lot of turn-based strategy games that came out on PC. Mm-hmm. So it's hex based.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's async. So it's generally async. There are some rules variations for Shockwave and GV that meant that the game was kind of synchronous, but our game is asynchronous, and because it follows most of the original Ogre 6e rules, and it's also a game that is. You have one side has an ogre, which is a very big tank, cybernetic tank that has lots of weaponry and stuff like that, and multiple weapons. And then one side controls an army, and the army needs to stop the ogre. That's the general easiest, basic scenario. And effectively, we got asked to do a video game version of that, and it was awesome. And it came out in. Oh God! When did it come out? October. October. Yes, it came out my birthday week. So that's part of the reason that I took the thing out. So I was just like, I'll just launch a video game. Why not?
I'm going to do some golfing, and then I'm going to do some fencing, and then I'm going to do some. Yeah. I'm surprised you did not done scuba diving as well, then.
Yeah, I did scuba as well.
That was cool.
Yeah, just threw that in. Yeah.
It was very, it was very, very. Kind of Ron Burgundy, the way you went October there, like somebody had put a question mark on the end of your auto cue. We released this game in October.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, you know, we're a very busy studio, and one of my things is, so I wasn't the producer on Ogre. That was actually my colleague Nina, but I was the marketing manager on it. So I'm also the marketing manager at Auroch, and so yeah, there was a big lead up of about 2.5, 3 months of like full on trying to promote the game and get it out there and stuff like that. And so it's been out for a couple of months now, and it's doing well. Like and it's been picked up by the Ogre community specifically. It's been picked up by them like massively. They really have enjoyed it and really supported it, and helped give feedback on the game, which was really important. So we launched it and we had some feedback on this doesn't quite feel right, or this rule actually technically works in this way, like some very minutiae things. So for example, the game has in the GV rules, you can have, let's say for example you have a soldier. Well, you can have one soldier, but you can also have like 4 soldiers. You can also have 4 soldiers and then another in a unit, and then another 4 soldiers come along, and that's 2 separate units of 4 soldiers in the same hex. So they have to be stacked. Now, if they can be on a hex, which is like a normal land tile, like just grassland or whatever. They can also be underwater. They can be in water. They can be in water but not submerged. So they're not under the water.
Oh.
They can also be. Oh gosh, what else can they be? All sorts of different things. There's so many different layers and stacks. Basically, they can be riding a train. They could be riding a tank, which is riding a train. They can be. Loads of stuff basically. So we wanted feedback from the Ogre community, and we got it, and it was great because we were able to act on that and make things, get things back up to the point where we were really, really happy with what the game is, and we continue to support it, and bug updates here and there and that kind of thing. Because whenever you release a game, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be a bug. But like, yeah, so that's done really, really well, and we had really great feedback from it. With the Ogre community.
Did you play the original then? Were you tempted to go back and kind of play the musical? Is there no? I'm going to get your tank. No, it's on my train.
There is a soundtrack. They did do a board game soundtrack at one point, which was pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. You see that on apps nowadays. You get kind of like background music that you can have on while you play. So why not? But did you play the game, the actual board game format? Did you get access to that yourself?
Yes, so that was before we even started making the video game. We the team sat down and played the board game, so some of the team had never played the game before. Yeah. Some of the team had never heard of the game before. The guy who's at the top of the company, Tom, he not only had played the game before, he played the game way back in the day, and there's a picture of him. There's a picture of his custom-made hex tiles and units that he made when it was like 1987.
Really?
Like basically him as like a very young man, like starting off trying to be a designer, a game designer. Because I get the feeling he's wanted to do it for his entire life. And so like there's these tiny little like cut-out things. We saw that he brought those into the studio. He's like a massive Ogre fan, basically, and a couple of other people at the studio are the same. But yeah, so it was a really wide-ranging group, and yeah, so we've been playing the game, and I really like it. It's it's not as complex as some of the games that were starting to come around at that time, so like Avalon Hill and a lot of the very complex war game stuff. It's actually a distillation of strategy games, and I think it's better for it. Like, I like complex strategy games, but it's much, again, talk about accessibility, it's much more accessible. It's like you only have to really worry about a few things, but from there spawns out quite a lot of strategy, to the point of, 40 years after the original game comes out, there are still people coming up with really fascinating potential strategies to take to your opponent.
So is that chase you guys to kind of do more IPs? As I've noticed on the website, you've got Dark Future as well. So that's kind of like your.
So yeah, that's my project. I'm producing that one. I know, and we currently have that listed as a release for 2018, which is very exciting. We've always done IP stuff. So Chainsaw Warrior with Games Workshop, and now Dark Future with Games Workshop. we've always done IP stuff, and we do like doing IP things because we like making games in worlds that people already know. Potentially straight ports, like we did with Chainsaw Warrior and like we did with Ogre. And then sometimes where we take the original IP and we create a game in that world that isn't that game because we just feel like we want to do something different, or sometimes it's not appropriate to do a straight up board game translation. So Dark Future, for example, is not the board game, not at all. It is like, it takes the spirit of the board game and the world of the board game and the themes of the board game, but it's not a turn-based, relatively slowly paced vehicular car combat game in that way. It's a real-time strategy game where you are controlling a car, and it's weird, and it's going to be really difficult for me to try and like explain it to people. So we have to do a gameplay video really soon because we just want to show the gameplay. Really, we've never actually shown it, and we've been playing it in the studio, and we really love it. But we also sort of sit down and realize like there aren't any games like this. Like, and that's not like marketing spin. It's just this is just not a game that has been made before. And like what we've had people get back to us, go, "Oh, this looks like a really great game. Can't wait to race around the desert." And we're like, "No. like this is not a racing game." It's like, "Oh, cool. So it's like Twisted Metal." No. Like, and so yeah, it's really difficult. People say, "Oh, so it's turn-based." Well, not really. You can slow time right down, but yeah. So again, we're going to do a gameplay video, and
it's kind of like Mad Max on ice.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll quote that.
There you go.
We'll put that on the.
You can imagine if you put that as your marketing spiel, the number of people that would just show up because of the name Mad Max is in there. But also, you'd get all the dancing on ice. You get the Philip Schofield posse turning up.
Yeah.
just to see.
Our target audience.
In fact, get in contact with Phil and ask if he'll do a playtest for you, and he'll say it's the best. It's the best car. It's the best future. It's the best future apocalypse car turn-based role-playing ice-based game I've ever played.
Yeah, I'll get the scope on the blower and we'll sort that out.
I've got him an email. I'll just ping him an email afterwards. He's really big into Catan, apparently.
Cool. Yeah, get him on. So that's all very exciting. But we do IP stuff, and so we're actually going to be announcing. It's just you and me talking, isn't it? So that's fine. We're actually going to be announcing a new game really soon. That's also going to be released in 2018, and we're going to be announcing it basically in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
And just because it's you and me, it's a Cthulhu game, and it's based on a Cthulhu IP. And the reason that because we could have just made our own like Cthulhu game, because Cthulhu's completely, you don't have to, it's what's it called, open source.
Yeah, it's an open like an IP.
Free,
yeah, there's no copyright or anything like that on it. Yeah.
But we decided to go with a Cthulhu. Based IP that somebody else had created because we wanted to play in the specific Cthulhu world that they'd made. And again, that's not going to be a direct translation of their game. It's going to be very much a game that we've created that we're really, really proud of that we're putting together at the moment. But what we want to be able to do is tell stories in that universe using this new game that we're coming up with. So yeah, we are definitely doing more IP stuff. The same amount of IP stuff. We continue to do that, but we also do our own IP stuff as well. And that's again, we've got two own IP titles in the works at the moment. And yeah, it's about finding a balance between playing in other people's worlds and making games that people like go, "Oh, cool! You made a game about this," because that's kind of our studio.
Yeah.
Like, we don't go for really massive licenses. Like, we don't go for Catan, and we don't go for what's a big license? We don't go for Lord of the Rings because people already make those games. What we want to make is games for people who are Ogre is their jam. Like that is their thing, and we want to make games for them because they're the best fans to have, right? They're the ones who go, hey, this. Like they turn up and they're like, they play the game and they're like, oh, I really, really love this game. Thank you so much for making it. By the way, if you see, line this of paragraph this on page whatever of the manual, you'll see that this very specific rule situation is actually meant to play out like this. Thanks, keep up the good work. Rather than like a mainstream video game audience, which you can get people who are like that, but you can also get people who are just like, thumbs down, this game gave me cancer, and you're just like, thanks, great, well that, So it's about, we like to make games for people who want to play these kinds of games. So we're very much a developer of niche titles that happen to end up being successful because we're able to make games for that audience and then encourage other people to come and try out the game. Because I think, so Ogre, for example, is an amazing game, and it has a very dedicated audience, and it has quite a large audience. But outside of the people who play Ogre, it's not, it doesn't have the same level of popularity as a Catan. It just doesn't. But what we wanted to be able to do is go, cool, we've made this cool game for people who really love Ogre, and then hopefully those people will go, oh, amazing, they've made this great game. I'm going to share this with my friend who's also into board games but hasn't played Ogre. I'm going to share this so we can play it together. And then we, hopefully, because we've built up this good game and we've built a faithful representation of what that game is, those fans become our fans, and they also become our advocates. And that's really important to us, that people go, that like our games, and then actually go and tell people about our games, that they should be playing them. And that's when we know we've done a good job, basically, when we know that we've reached a wider audience. So again, we have people who have turned up to our Steam forums and say, I have never heard of Ogre before, but I'm a really hardcore turn-based hex grid strategy gamer on the PC from the 1980s, and I've never even heard of Ogre. I'm going to give this a go because it sounds awesome. Like, should I? And then on the forum, we have our Ogre fans who are like, yes, you absolutely should. This is really good. Here's why it plays out like this. Here's what it's not.
Yeah.
Here's what it is. Cool. And it's great. And that's how we build up our fans. And it's not failed us yet. So
in cases of where can they find Ogre if they want to get a hold of it? I mean, are you planning a PlayStation? Are you planning a PlayStation or Xbox kind of version of it, or is it solely going to be on the PC?
So it's on PC and Mac. We always say, when people ask for different versions, we always say, like, first of all, like, if enough people ask for it, then we would be stupid to turn that down, because if people think that they're going to pay for it, then great. It is unfortunately always a business decision. So a console port of Ogre would be relatively it's not trivial. So we would love to be able to bring it to PlayStation and Xbox and Switch. Like, we would love to do all that. We'd love to bring it to iPad and Android. Right now it's on PC, and for the time being, that's where it's going to be. But you never know.
Okay.
I mean, it's so it's always good.
And if they want to keep an eye on kind of what Auroch's doing next, where can you find yourselves then?
So the easiest thing to do is to find us on Twitter and Facebook, and we've got aurochdigital.com. There's links to all that sort of stuff. We've got a little newsletter as well, which we don't spam people with it. That's being the marketing manager, I'm able to be the person who's like, we are not being awful, and it's great because the company's really cool with not chucking stuff out. So sign up for the newsletter. You basically get like free stuff. Like what we kind of do is we always build our games where we'll give something away for free to people who are like hardcore fans. So like we gave away we put the soundtrack out on Steam for Ogre separately, and we gave it away to like all of our newsletter subscribers. So we were just like, have this. This is free. It's like £5 worth of stuff. Have it. So we always do that. So that's always really good. But yeah, Twitter and Facebook and our website and all that sort of stuff. And just come and find us on Steam and have a look at our games.
And I'm also going to say, please, I know a lot of you are, because you're all a lovely, lovely bunch, and you'll probably be delighted to listen to Peter in the first place because you know how much we go on about him. But if you're not listening to Staying In podcast, please go ahead and listen to it, because it's okay. It's one of the podcasts that is probably, if you see there's a new episode out, it'll be in, I've got to go and listen to this quickly. It's one of the things that you can kind of use it as a chilling out tool. You can be kind of doing the gardening with it and listening along, or you can be if you're stuck in heavy traffic, you can have it on. It can teach you certain things. It got me into Batman Metal, the new Dark Knight series.
Okay.
So I've been consuming that. I've been consuming that the way that Barbatos has been trying to consume Worlds.
Gotcha. I mean, that's genuinely like you can have it on in the background. That is genuinely the best sell for it, because it's like, it's just some people talking and being nice.
It's not, you don't have to concentrate on it. It's not a case that it's like I could get up in the morning and it's like putting on the Sunday radio, and it's like having, it's like just having a couple of people just having a chat, and you've kind of got this, you're going to lay lots of sugar. You kind of got this nice mix where sometimes like you'll be on and you'll have Dan coming on and talking a little bit about what's happening with the little one, and then you'll have Chris just telling everything that he has eaten in the last couple of weeks, which is usually mountains of food. You know, I'm surprised he's not kind of queuing up at Tesco's now that they've got this thing that they'll never ever kind of throw food away, that he's not just standing there with a truck saying, right, load it on guys, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of this.
He is basically a human being.
He is. Then you've got Sam, good old Sam. But he talks, you know, obviously talks about his comics. You jump in with the video games. It's just a really, really decent podcast to listen to. So if you're not listening to it now, and the thing is, there's not a continuation of the story, so it's not a case that you have to jump in. You can jump in at any episode at all. Just look at the titles, just see something that you want. As I say, a couple of episodes ago, they were talking about Batman Metal, which I was jumping into. The time before, they're talking, you know, they've talked about going hill walking. They've talked about ranking crisps as well, ranking sweets.
I forgot about crisp ranking.
You know, they've talked about books that they've been reading. They had a fabulous Secret Santa. So I know no one's like, all right, what are you being paid by, Peter? And the answer is yes, I am. So I'm very good at it.
Yeah. Checks
but
in
just give it a listen. If you're not wanting something that's episodic, they touch on board games. They Duncan Malloy from Osprey Games comes on a regular basis. They have regular kind of guests that kind of pop in, but they don't do the guest thing like I do the guest thing. They do the guest thing like, oh, we actually know these people really, really well, so it is just like you're catching in a conversation. So you can find them on, it Staying In Pod on Twitter. You've got Staying In, is it stayingin.podbean.com is the website
That's
address. You're on Facebook now as well, aren't you? So what's the new, do you know what?
Facebook.com. Go there and search for Staying In podcast. Yeah, I don't know. Everything's on the website. Well.
And what else does it say? And if you where can we find you, Mr. Willington?
Oh gosh, you can find me on twitter.com/000 with an X, because I decided to get into radio and that was a good idea to have an X as 0. And you can find me on I don't know. Just go to Twitter. Twitter's fine. Twitter's fine. It's fine. I'm generally just like shouting about. I'm just raging all the time. That's just me.
Constantly
just
angry.
Raging. Constantly angry.
Just atting just random people and telling them how very terrible that they are, or
that's
quote
me.
tweeting people and telling them how very terrible they are, or
the ultimate.
Or just random ambiguous kind of sentences. It's like, you would think some people would be able to know how to control a crocodile if they own one, eh?
Yeah.
And then you're just like, why? What's this random?
What is this weird subtweet?
Random. But it's all, you're a pro follow. I know this has kind of been short, but then I'm looking at it and realising it's not.
Yeah.
But thank you very, very much for coming on.
Well, thank you again for having me on. I love coming on. Honestly,
we're gonna have a longer one, I think. I'm gonna have to just, in the next kind of month, we're just gonna have to have you back on. Just because. just because random chatting and just letting the conversation go anywhere is absolutely fantastic. For people who are not wanting to follow us, we've had enough. And if you want to complain about it, and if you want to complain about us, remember you can complain about us on Twitter by @ing us at We're Not Wizards. You can complain about us on Facebook by going to we're not wizards and post complaints on our page there. Send us horrible photographs at Instagram /We're Not Wizards. Follow us on YouTube as well, which is youtube.com/c/ We're Not Wizards Tabletop Podcast. Our host Podbean automatically put our podcasts onto YouTube automatically, so feel free to go there and downvote the hell out of all of our videos, because if you feel that angry about us. If you want to catch us, you can catch us on the usual kind of podcast catchers, which is Acast and Stitcher and Spreaker, and you can email us angry emails, magic@we'renotwizards.com or .co.uk. However, if you have enjoyed today, and in general if you want to give us some support, please jump onto the Apple Podcasts place of podcasts and drop us a little rating, or drop us a little review, or please drop us a subscription if you do like us. Remember, if you have really liked what you've listened to today, please give us a little ranking as well, but don't give us a 10 because it makes us big-headed. Don't give us a 1 because it makes us cry. Give us a 5 because it's in the middle, and it's average, and we are decidedly average. But the person who's not being average today is the wonderful Mr. Peter Willington. So thank you very, very much for coming on. There's only 2 more things to do.
Man. All right.
The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards.
Oh.
Are we wizards, Peter?
I don't think so.
That'll do for me. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from the fantastic, the wonderful, the amazing, the reason to stay in, the all fencing, the all scuba diving, the all golfing, but don't ask him to bake. It is the one and only Mr. Peter Willington. Say goodbye, Peter.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, and check out Staying In Pod because it's really good. Check out Ogre as well, and just check out Auroch Digital because they're going to be putting out some absolutely fantastic stuff for the coming months and definitely in the next coming years. But until the next time, goodbye.